coming now to the fourth game of this World Final Series. Wow, now down one at match point. We see Camille, Jin, Akali, banned on one side, Ashe, TF, Nidalee on the other side. We're still missing Lucian here, but now we know that no team can actually play him, so it's not that much of an issue, honestly. Right, Suning always bans him, so we assume they can play him. And well, yeah, Showmaker certainly didn't look too great with him. Going over the bans, Ashe, a ban against Ghost, we see quite multiple of times here. TF, Nidalee, not much to say here. Akali, well, Angel is certainly a very good player on her, even though the last game was not a W for her. Jin and Camille against One Thing and Bin, very understandable. And again, on blue side there's not much that you have to ban. We see Syndra first pick, really like it here. It's a very strong champion at the moment, and with their inability to play Lucian, she's actually one, if not the strongest mid laner at the moment. Certainly she has counter picks, but then again, please always remember these teams not used to playing these counter picks. People like LS will tell you just play, I don't know, Vel'Koz or an assassin maybe like this. That certainly can work out, but the thing is, these players are not used to this, their teammates are not used to this, and this is a poor excuse, as maybe they should be able to play every champion in the game to like pro play level, but again, they're just humans, they can't really play, they aren't able to play all the champions, which is a bit understandable, although it is sad that they're not able to play the counters to a champion like Syndra, after Syndra being so relevant in the meta for like multiple years now. So yeah, again, looking at the other side, we see Graves and Leona. So Graves taken away, he certainly was very powerful in this series, as well as the whole World Championship, so it's very understandable that he is taken. Leona, similar story, a very high priority champion, but to be honest, after the beginning of the series, Sword Art didn't look that great on her. So yeah, not too sure with this one, still a very powerful pick overall. Kindred and Caitlyn, done on the other side, huge DPS, AD and auto attack, heavy, right? 2 AD carries with huge damage. More squishy and immobile champions though for their side, alongside Syndra, but also huge mid-game power here. Lastly, for the first rotation, we see the Orianna. So they're getting a mid lane before the second ban rotation, which is understandable. And Orianna always has been a quite decent champion into Syndra, right? Both girls want to play with their balls, and Orianna able to get the shields onto Graves, for example, very potent. Additionally, Kindred, her ultimate intensifies players to stack on top of each other in this narrow space. Orianna ult after Kindred ult, very strong here. For ban phase, not noticing if you listen to it, but the casters talked about Morgana ban here, which is understandable with Caitlyn, Morgana Caitlyn, very strong bot lane, Morgana into Leona, very strong, but overall not a huge fan of Morgana at the moment. She certainly has her moments, and this might be one, but there's still like a few picks missing to fully say Morgana's go here. Additionally, supports like to roam. Morgana, yes, she can roam, but she's also very squishy, so she's not able to face check. She's not able enabling so much engage, and with Kindred already picked, the engage has to come from top and support. And yeah, just like going for Morgana and just putting all the engaged eggs into the basket of top lane, that's not very smart, and I wouldn't really recommend it. Certainly is doable, but why take the risk? Just go with the melee engage or like skirmish supports that can face check, that can do something on their own. So, which with this I mean Morgana isn't that great at the moment, and as such, even though she would be a niche pick here for solo queue especially, or just in the isolated bot lane matchup, it's not something overall that one would like to pick. Not sure if like there was a Morgana game even this year. So other than that, we don't see a Morgana ban, but we see Ezreal and Jax. So as expected, no AD carry picked. We see already Ashe off the table. We see Caitlyn picked. So yeah, we see also Jhin also banned. So Ezreal another one, pinching the pool even more. Then Jax for Bin, his performance was very good, even though they didn't turn out to win this game. Jax, as expected for Bin, very relevant and very strong champion. On the other side of the bans, Kennen and Lulu, mostly Nuggery's pocket picks. I'm not sure if they would be that good. If you remember, we see Kindred, Caitlyn and Syndra for them. So a Kennen with Kindred, there's certainly some issues here, but it's doable, right? The coordination needs to be on top for them. Lulu with these AD carries, certainly very powerful. Lots of damage, lots of movement speed and buffs, but then again, so where's the front line? So Leona already banned this like most picked, sorry, the most standard tank support at the moment. So if Lulu is selected, where like these AD carries are buffed, but they can't actually do damage because there are like these huge threats running into them. So Lulu, not really, like I actually don't really like this. Like it's a wasted ban on here. Similar story with Kennen, but Kennen is a bit more understandable. Yes, he is not a frontline tank who generates time, space through his HP pool, but as we saw in previous games, Kennen creates space through his ultimate, in which, especially with Nuggery's skill on the champion, down one's AD carries are able to do lots of damage. So the Kennen ban is understandable, but the Lulu needs to be changed out for an Ornn here. Not really sure why they fear Lulu so much. They already banned it in the previous one, where it was kinda okay to ban, but now this is certainly not okay. We see Aphelios then picked, so yeah, the AD carry had to come in. And yeah, the lane is very rough. Aphelios into Caitlyn. This hurts lots for the Aphelios player, even though the Leona is by his side. But then, giving him some levels, getting him to level 6 for example, getting him 2 items, his skirmish abilities are very strong. Caitlyn, if she's not able to snowball correctly or like ride the wave, she falls into her mid-game power spruff, right? Her 2 items are not very powerful in comparison to others. Yes, Aphelios still wants 3 or 4 items, but he on 2 items can do something, especially with his ult, like his purple ult, right, with the stun, the snare. Very strong here, and yeah, it's a good follow-up for Leona. Then we see the Pantheon on rotation. That's just very good. First of all, Beryl is the one true Pantheon support player in the world, so this is certainly a high comfortable champion for him. Very good for such a match deciding game here. The Ornn, also very great. As I alluded to in the second ban phase, they need tanks, they need engage, and the space Ornn generates is just very amazing here. Additionally, like Bin has often showed problems in laning against Ornn, so picking it up is very great here. As I said again, they need also engage, because look at the champs again and again. Syndra, Kindred, Kate, they don't offer engage, they offer high damage, but they are not frontlining, they have no space, they need this, they need setup, right? I often talk about setup. Space is one of the most important setups for most champions here, and these champions certainly do this. Additionally, Ornn, against everyone, it's just a safe top laner, right? Like there are little champions that bully him, and little teams that are able to completely crush him, right? We saw a Jace, I think it was Nuggery actually, completely dismantle an Ornn, but not Ornn, it was his turrets. and by doing that he went like swinging with the game. But Suning is not really a team to do that all that well, right? So Leon is completely safe in like any matchup here, and this with Pantheon additionally just enables bot lane so much more. So you get the Caitlyn, you get the Pantheon, two very strong and dominant laning and early game champions. You have the Ornn in the top lane, so you can just ignore top lane completely. So it's very easy for Canyon to just focus around mid and bot lane to like, maybe take the mid laner on a trip to bot, have a nice four-man picnic there, getting the gold from the turret plates, maybe slaying some dragons here and there. Like, it's very smart to play this way, or to pick this way to enable your team to play this way. Very huge props here on the ones who drafted this. Lastly, for Suning, rounding up the draft phase, we see GP. So GP often offers this free farming ability into Ornn, right? Ornn can't really punish lots of champions, so we often see GP or Vladimir, or like split push champions that also want to scale, like Fiora, Camille, Jax. These champions who need farm, who want to scale, they're all picked into Ornn because Ornn, yes, he is safe, but he's also not punishing. Similar story with GP here, but also the GP offers the ultimate, which is actually very smart here. So a Camille, a Kindred, a Syndra, a Caitlyn, they're not very fast, they're not very mobile, so GP ult with the slow, good setup for Leona to pounce on them. Additionally, GP, again, tons of damage if he gets to later stages. Again, the enemy team is immobile, the enemy team has lots of damage, which in turn means often the enemy team is very squishy. And we have seen from Bin in the past that his GP is certainly able to completely one-shot some squishy targets. So with the free farm into Ornn, GP is certainly very okay here, but we see some problems. So we have Graves Leona, Orianna, GP and Aphelios. So who's actually frontlining here? It's just the Leona, and supports as the only frontline is certainly an issue. So yeah, they have some space control with the GP barrels and Orianna, which certainly allows champions like Aphelios to do damage, but it's just all of their comp is very strange in the damage department. So Orianna is a shotgun, a mage, similar story with GP, who has like his barrel combo, and then he needs to wait and set up his barrels again, while Orianna has to wait for her ultimate or the cooldowns on her QW, which is like, in the early and mid stages rather long. Aphelios, like, not only does he need time to scale, but even then he's not in his prime anymore, right? He's been nerfed quite a bit, and yeah, he is also rather short-ranged in certain guns. So their damage is not really there in every case. Their damage can be evaded, their damage can be counteracted, right? GP's barrels could be destroyed. So they certainly have the zone potential, but their zones can't be used in every case. Because of the nature of these champions being so specific in the way they do damage. On the other side, champions like the Ornn and the Pantheon can more or less just bolster up against their zones. So GP, Orianna, Aphelios, they all need items to really threat with their abilities. And also they don't want to use their abilities against Ornn and Pantheon. Just, these are tanks, these are supports. You don't want to kill them, you want to wait to get the juicy Caitlyn, to get Syndra, Kindred, you want to get to those targets. But they have little options to just get to the backline, besides some hidden barrel combinations or like a ball in a brush or something like that. Leona can't just walk past Pantheon and Ornn. Like, the Pantheon just has a point and click stun, there's little ability for Leona to get around that. So yes, they have the zoning abilities, but they can't really use that, and in turn they can't really get to Downward's backline. Yes, like both teams have very great scaling options, but Like, I feel down one scaling is even better with Ornn, for example. Even though GP certainly scales well, as I alluded to, he's probably not able to get his damage off reliably. Also, now moving past from the pigman, going into like the team comps against each other in the games, down one has more meaningful pressure in bot lane than Suning has in any other lane. So Suning, you would say GP has pressure into Ornn, which he does. You can Q him and auto attack him with passive, and Ornn is angry and crafts some items, and yeah, it's fine. On the other side, like a Caitlyn and a Pantheon can completely demolish bot lane. So yeah, down one have like great teamfight abilities, great scaling abilities, and they also have early game power, right? This pressure in bot is very like unanswerable for Suning. So with this power point, they can get this is another core for early leads, which can then spread out, right? And especially with Pantheon being such a strong roaming support and such a strong early game champion, he can 1v1 enemy AD carries, junglers, because he's just so powerful, which is very good for Kindred. She wants to get the pressure from a support to secure marks, right? This is a champion all about invading. She's not just about like farming her own jungle, she wants to invade. She wants to team up with a Pantheon to just completely smurf on the enemy jungler. So this is a very great setup. The Caitlyn and Pantheon alone enable Pantheon and Kindred to get marks, to get early pressure, and then just look into mid lane. Syndra against Orianna. Yeah, Orianna is not dead, but Syndra certainly has the push. Syndra certainly is stronger in most early stages here. So yeah, this like we have Kindred, Pantheon, and Syndra completely dominating the bot lane side of the map. This just they get completely control over this. They will get the drakes, they will get the jungle camps. If any mark spawns there, Kindred certainly should be able to get it. On top side, yeah, GP can poke, he can farm, but he can't pressure off on of CS, he can solo kill. Suning has no counterpart, there's no trade in pressure. They can try to split the map, right? They can just get enemy camps, but in such a trade scenario, first of all, bot lane against top lane, bot lane for down one gets more out of it, right? They get turret plates easier, right? Bot lane turret plates get taken down easier than top lane or mid lane plates. Then also, Caitlyn can pressure more than GP can. And then there's Drake, like there are more Drakes spawning than Rift Heralds, and also encounter jungling, like the Graves. Yes, for him, it doesn't matter which camps he farms, right? It just the goal, the XP, it's irrelevant if it's his camp or if it's the enemy camp. It doesn't matter for him, right? He gets nothing special from enemy camps. Kindred on the other side, she can get marks. So if they're trading halves of the map, not only through the lanes is down one getting more out of it, or not only because of the turret plate setup, but also through the jungle setup. It's just a very one-sided map split off here. So yeah, down one this time, they're also not under like pressure as they were in games past, right? And in the other games, they were outscaled in late game fights, or especially they had different. They had to play very specific and had very difficult strategies to pull off to get these late game fights in their favor. This time, look at their champions. I already alluded to at the end of Pigman that their champions actually excel in these fights, and that Suning has, even though they have zone control, they have it a very hard time to do much in these late game fights here. So they have strong early game, they can snowball this strong early game into mid game, and then they have also probably the better late game, or at least an easier to play late game. This looks very hard. So yeah, in team fights and skirmishes, unless down one's bot lane loses early, right? Similar story to the Lucian, right? The Lucian was the core of the snowball. In this case, it's the bot lane. So if bot lane gets 2v2 at level 2, yikes, this should never happen. This is nearly impossible to happen. But if this would happen, yeah, it's harder for down one. It's not impossible, but it's way harder, right? Because then mid game is not they're not as ahead as they should be, and then certainly through some X factors, Suning can able to do work some magic here. But yeah, this like game plan deterrence from Suning is very much reliable on down one's bot lane misplaying, and I'm not sure if you looked at it in the games, but down one's bot lane was like very much better than Suning's in like nearly every game, getting CS leads and so on. So yeah, if with these stronger champions, there's little way, like no way actually, that Suning's bot lane can do this. Then yeah, let's look at some like how the fights turn out. I already alluded to it with the zoning, but then let's look at the engage. So there's Leona, and so she can run into them. She has Orianna's ball on her, and that's it. So this is their only move, unless they have some like gangplank barrel combos out of Fog of War, or something similar to that, right? Or Orianna ball catching someone off with ultimate. But that's very, very specific and very unrealistic to reliably happen again and again, or in large scale. So in team fights, it's like putting Gangplank ult down, slowing the enemy, Leona runs in, and then Leona goes in, stuns, and maybe she has Orianna's ball on her, or Orianna just places the ball where Leona stuns the enemies. Anyway, this is their only shot in their gun, like the only move they can do. If this hits, maybe they do enough damage. Maybe like Gangplank can then follow up late game with barrels, and this can certainly work. They can certainly blow up 1 or 2 targets through this. But if it doesn't, then what do they do? So they wasted their Orianna ult probably, or Leona is just a sitting duck in the enemy team, or maybe in the space between the two teams, and then can just be autoed down. So Suning has drafted very poorly here, or down one just gets an easy draft win here. They win at every stage of the game. They have strong lanes, they have winning lanes, even lanes where they are like behind, right? Top lane. They're not really getting pressured, they're not losing much. They scale fine in top lane as well, even though they have not the hard pressure there. They can snowball these leads easily into the mid game. With the bot lane control, they can easily get the Drakes, as they did in the games prior to this. With these Drakes, they can force team fights. These team fights, not only should they win them quite easily through their draft, also with the leads I alluded to, down one just gets a free win here. So one of the main issues how Suning could have prevented this was obviously banning the Ornn, and then maybe get a good matchup top lane as the counterplay, right? So yeah, you already with Caitlyn Pantheon, you already nearly lost bot lane, right? And you can't ban Ornn Pantheon, that would be too much hindsight, right? So you already lost bottom. But okay, then mid lane is about even, right? Syndra is not solo killing Orianna. It's just that she has the pressure advantage and can mostly roam first. Then you need to get something in top lane. So you got Graves. You got the first priority jungler here. So you need to have something in top lane. But then they left out Ornn, picked GP, who's fine, but Graves GP, Graves GP, what are they doing against Ornn? Ornn just goes Sunfire Cape first, goes Ninja Tabis, and then he just scratches his back because there's nothing pressuring him. There's nothing going on here. And yeah, the game actually turned out to be a stomp. It was quite one-sided, but well, that's how the draft turned out as well, right? Down one played how the draft alluded to, getting the lead bot lane, snowballing it, getting tons of kills, and then at some point it was just over. Suning, you have to understand, it's also a world final. It's not just any match. it's a match with high pressure for these very young players besides Sword Art. So you saw many positional mistakes, many desperate maneuvers, trying to get a kill here, flashing over worlds, like not paying attention, front checking brushes. Yeah, like at some point it was over because of mental, and Soothing was just playing way worse than they did in any series before. But even regardless of that, as I alluded to, with player skills being in Downward's favor in any position, and overall the team coordination of Downward also being very strong, as we saw in I think it was game 2, where they had this very difficult, no, 3, where they had this very difficult teamfight comp and they pulled it off. So yeah. Now, with Worlds Finals finished, Downward winning 3-1, they're actually able to bring back the glory to the LCK. Soothing, they were a worthy adversary. They certainly had creative plays here and there, and the way to the final through TS, through JDG, very respectable. And their play, especially in the first 2 games, was very, very good. Like, it was noticeably that they weren't as good as Downward, because they got their leads and they got their advantages through creative plays and chaos, which is usually the way the underdog gets their surprise wins, right? We see this often from teams like G2 as well, or Fnatic. Not saying these teams are bad per se, but it's just the way the underdog, the less individual skilled player or team does things. This is not mean that meant as an insult in any way. Being creative is certainly your own strength. So yeah, Soothing showed very great mind here, and then can certainly be proud of them. Like, as the 3rd seed going to the final, this is respectable. And yeah, they hold out to the 4th game, and yeah, and then like Downward completely dominated from draft onwards into the game, and Soothing then crumbled, not only with their champions but also mentally. But overall, after 3 years now, Korea shuts down their haters, doubters, everyone like saying Korea's washed up, Korea's not even a good region anymore. Well, this is certainly a topic for another video, like regional strengths. Like, the analysis is always the one winning worlds is the strongest region, and well, you could always say that, but that's certainly a topic for another video. So yeah, after some like, talk and interviews, the MVP was crowned. It's obviously Canyon, but glad that there wasn't some BS here. Like, not only dominating at all prior games, at Worlds, and having a great year overall. Like, the final was just outstanding. There were many like individual outplays from him, solo killing others, using his abilities in very creative ways. So yeah, I'm glad that this was recognized, and especially after the last game, I think he was 7-0-6, completely smurfing here. Yeah, Canyon, an enabler for his team, but also with the great playstyle of his team, being set up to carry and enable his laners. This is just the embodiment of the late 2020 meta, and actually the power of LCK, right? This playstyle is mainly used by LCK teams, which is like very great to see that this is in the end what turned out to be the greatest way to play. So in the 10th World Championship, Korea gets their 6th title, just completely stamping themselves onto the League of Legends history, right? Like 6 out of 10 are for Korea, and the thing is, like the first World Championship, well, you can take it as it is. I'm not going to say it means nothing, but with no Korean, no Asian team there, it's certainly a bit of a strange one. So yeah, this marks the end of the World Championship 2020. We had many great videos here on this channel, and yeah, the games were very cool. We saw many interesting picks, and like, maybe I'm going to do like a few videos in retrospect now over Worlds. As I alluded to, we have this discussion now about like strongest region and how the narrative of that is very convoluted, and yeah, maybe we get some cool interviews and can see some trash talk in there, and then maybe react to something of that. We will see. Certainly World Championship was the first era of this channel, and yeah, we will now go into a different type of style of videos. So yeah, you can all expect some more creative content, but probably less frequent than the nearly daily content of Worlds, because yeah, there are many other issues in my personal life, and also there is with this now break in esports, there is little to do. But certainly with preseason coming up, we will get tons of content here, which you can look forward to. So yeah, after this now very long drawn out video, I'm thankful for you all who stick this long with the video and who watched my stuff. Hope you all have a great day, and yeah, we see ourselves back with a new generation of content.